Hey class, Mr. Kroll here. I'm hanging out in my car waiting for Mrs. Kroll, and I just thought I'd introduce this next video. Today we're going to talk about intervals. So last video we actually talked about scales, and I gave you the algorithm to come up with all the scales that you need. And in this video we're actually going to go over intervals. An interval, I'll tell you basically this. An interval is the distance between two notes. So you'll find those in the scale. And when we head to the piano, you'll see exactly how they're laid out. So take some notes. If you want to grab your instrument, whether it's a piano or some other instrument that you have, feel free to join me. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this lesson. All right. Hey class, how's it going? So last video we talked about scales and how to find them. But this video we're going to cover intervals. So intervals are based around scales, and they actually help us in a multitude of ways. The official definition of an interval is the distance between two notes. So from here to here is an interval, or from here all the way up to here is an interval. So we'll discuss that in a little bit. But what they do for us specifically is, so you're probably wondering why we need to actually know the distance between two notes. I'll give you 4 points right here. Is that they help us to understand the purpose of each note in the scale. And so each note in the scale, as we talked about in the last video, has a number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they all have a very unique purpose and a unique function that contributes to songwriting. So we'll talk a little bit about that, not a whole lot, but they help us understand that. They help us play our instrument better. So if somebody told me to play a scale going up in thirds, so a third, 1, 2, 3, a third, I'd know how to do that. They also help with ear training and knowing, developing relative pitch and developing perfect pitch. Now, perfect pitch, there's a big discussion over it of whether you can get perfect pitch or whether you're born with perfect pitch. I actually believe that people are born with perfect pitch, but I know that there are some people that can develop perfect pitch. But therein lies the question, did they actually develop it from nothing, or did they develop it from already having it and just not having it very well? So, lots of questions about that, but I think that you can develop a sense of perfect pitch and a sense of relative pitch, and intervals definitely help with that, especially if you know how to sing the intervals. That's going to help you a whole bunch. They also help with building harmonies and chords, which will be covered in the following video. So we'll be covering chords in the following video, and you'll see how these intervals come into play. So this video will be basically done into 3 different sections. So the first section is in basic intervals. So there are certain types of intervals. So this is a third, but this is also a third. And we're really not going to, in this first section, we're not going to discuss which ones are which, but we're going to discuss the fact that this is a third, this is a third, this is a third, and so on. And I'll explain all of those in this next section. Then the following section, so the first section is basic intervals, just what are the basic ones. The next one is on major and perfect intervals. And then the third section is on minor intervals. So that delineates between this. And again, we'll cover that. So basic intervals. Let's just talk about basic intervals right now. So a basic interval comes from, is found within the scales. So today we're going to be working with C major again. Here's our C major scale. So our C major scale. Okay, from C all the way to C. And so with this, if you remember from last video, we labeled each one of these notes so that way they can be applied to different scales. So each note has a number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 or 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And it's really, really simple. If you know that, then you know your intervals, because they're all based off of that detail. So right here we have the first note, and our basic intervals, we're basing them well, right now we're basing all of our notes off the bottom note. So we're just choosing one note, so we have our C, and then our next interval is a second, so going up, So we have a second, okay? And we'll talk about what type of second these are. So this is a second. So playing 1 and then playing 2 is a second. Playing 1 and then playing 3 is a third. Playing 1 and then 4 is a fourth. Fifth, sixth, seventh, and then eighth, or an octave. We call it an octave. But we can also call it an eighth, and we'll talk about what types of intervals these are. And again, you can play these going up. So I can play a second here. I can also play a second here. So a second is a note, and then the second note next to it, okay? Within the scale. This is a basic interval right here. So within the scale. So it's 1, and then 2 is a second, or if you played 2 and then 3, this is also a second. Second, I can play my seconds going all the way up. Same with my thirds. So if I go my thirds, I can play those going all the way up. So I have my thirds. So, all right. I could also play my fourths going up. And again, as they're going up, they're changing the type of fourth or the type of third or type of second. But right now, you just need to know that these are 3 apart. Or sorry, a second is 2 apart. So 1, 2. And when we're counting in music, we always count the first note. So 1 and then 2. And then our third is 3 apart. 1, 2, 3. It spans 3 notes. It spans 3 notes. 3. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. And we can do it again up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can actually use this in helping you write music, and we'll again talk about that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now a fifth. You can play fifths all day long, right? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sixth. We can play our sixths all day long. And we have a little harmony going here. And remember, harmony is just 2 or more notes played at the same time. And they don't have to sound really good together, but it's nice when they do. And then our seventh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And same thing, I can play my sevenths. Doesn't sound quite great, but again, it has a function, it has a purpose. But we won't quite cover that right now. But trust me though, when you play a seventh, it does have a purpose. Okay? But the nice sounding ones are pretty much all of these ones down here. Sevenths are a little bit tough when you play them, and seconds are a little bit tough. But it's because they're right next to each other. So if I move my C up to here, it's just, they're right next to each other. So they don't really complement each other that well. So that is our basic set of intervals. So to review, seconds are right next to each other. Thirds have 1 note in between. They span 3 notes. A fourth spans 4 notes. A fifth spans 5 notes. A sixth spans 6 notes. A seventh spans 7 notes. And an eighth spans 8 notes, or an octave, an eighth. And we're only counting within our scale, so we're not counting any of the black keys, because in C major we don't have any black keys. But if we were to do it in, let's say, B flat major, which has 2 black keys, it has B flat and E flat. Right? So if we were to do that and we were to play a sixth, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I can span 6 notes. Let's say I choose D, and within the key of B flat major, I can go up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm playing a different type of sixth. Or not a different type, but a different sixth. So I'm spanning 6 notes. Okay? So in the key of C major, I'll do that in C major. So spanning 6 notes. Let's just choose a random note. I don't know. Let me just close my eyes. E. Let's go up 6 notes in E. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there we go. We have another sixth that we can play. And then part of when you're writing a song is that you want to mix your intervals, okay? And so again, we'll probably cover that in a different video, but I just wanted to show you what an interval was. So that is a basic understanding of intervals. There are other types of intervals when we integrate the black keys, because these are also notes up here. So from here to here is a type of interval. From here to here is a type of interval. From here to here is a type of interval, and so on. And we'll go over that right now, actually. Or actually after this section, the third section. So that was the first section. In section 2 here, we're going to talk about major intervals. So major intervals all come from the major scale, okay? So back at C major, and so with C going to D, this was a second, but this is specifically called a major second. All right, this is what we call a whole step in the music business. So from C to C sharp is a half step. So half, right? Then from C to D is a whole step because we're going half and then half. Okay, just other terminology. Okay, so if you know what a whole step is, that's a major second is a whole step. Okay, a major third is going up 3 notes within a major scale. Okay, so that's a major third. Let's say I'm in the key of D where I have F sharp and C sharp. D to F sharp is a major third because it's in the major scale, okay? And that's naturally found in our major scale. So going back to C major, this is a major third, okay? I'm going to skip 4 and 5, and I'm going to go straight to 6. I'm going to go back to 4 and 5, okay? So 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a major sixth, and then we have a major seventh. So we have major second, major third, major sixth, and major seventh, okay? And now, these other ones that I haven't touched yet, 4, 5, and 8, are probably some of the most important ones. And the reason why they're some of the most important ones is they're kind of like universal notes. So 4, 5, and 8 are the most in tune sounding notes, if that makes sense. And so they're called perfect intervals. So this is a major second, major third. This is called a perfect fourth. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's because the fourth is it sounds the most alike. That's probably the best way to put it. If you hear this, you can pretty much tell that there's 2 different notes. Like if you were to close your eyes, you could pretty much tell that there's 2 different notes there. If you played this, it's a little bit harder to hear 2 different notes. Now I can hear it because I'm trained to hear it, and you may hear it too, and that's great. But if you're closing your notes, it sounds almost like one note. Same here. Or if you're closing your notes. If you're closing your eyes, don't close your notes. Same here. Sounds like pretty much one note. If I played a perfect 8 though, a perfect 8th. So we have a perfect 4th, perfect 5th, perfect 8th. Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, perfect 4th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, perfect 5th. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. Perfect 8. See how in tune it sounds? It sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Perfect 7th, it's a little bit crunchy, or a little bit, I don't know, unsettling. Like I kind of, I don't know what to do. I kind of want to leave this place. Now perfect 8, sounds kind of nice, doesn't it? So, sounds nice and beautiful. So those are major and perfect intervals. And if there's major intervals, that means there's also minor intervals. And there's other types of intervals too that we're not going to get into because it gets so confusing for new musicians that it gets really overwhelming. And I don't want you to get overwhelmed. And quite frankly, it doesn't really matter. Especially for what you're wanting to do, it doesn't really matter. And if you want to learn about it, get a degree in music. And maybe I'll post a video on it. I don't know. We'll see. But it just... yeah, some of them don't matter. Now, there are others that do matter that people use a lot in the music business, and the ones that go above, like 9, 10, 11. Those do matter, but there's other ones that don't matter that I'm not going to talk about. So right now, we're going to talk. So we just talked about the basic intervals, right? Thirds, right, going all the way up, and then specifically major intervals that are all based off of the first note of the scale. Now, a third, you can play a third like this. You know, it's not based off of the C of the scale, but it's still a third, okay? Whether it's major or minor, we'll talk about later, right? And if you know this right now, you'll know that this is major. But right now we're going to talk about minor intervals, and this is also based off of the first note of the scale. And friends, I just want to remind you, this can be applied to every scale, not just C major. So it can be applied to G major, D major, A major, E, and so on and so forth. So don't just practice this in one key, practice this in all keys. when you're learning these that rhymed. How fun. Okay, so there's minor intervals. So minor intervals are really, really simple. If you know what your major intervals are, you'll know what your minor intervals are. And this is how. So if you play your major second, which goes C to D, a minor second is just lowering this top note. This is called a minor second. Right? Pretty gross. Yeah, minor second, major second. Right? Sounds a little bit better than this, right? Oh. Okay. So third, 1, 2, 3, we have a major third. Now this is what a minor third sounds like. We just lower the third, and we have our minor third interval. If we go up to fourth, and let's say we lower the fourth, we're just playing a third. Okay, so we're not going to worry about that. If we play the fifth and lower the fifth, it's actually not called a minor fifth. We're going to talk about this one. We're going to come back to this guy. Okay, this is the fun little interval. Sounds a little bit weird, huh? Okay. So we're not going to talk about that. Let's skip fifth. Let's go to sixth. Let's lower the sixth. This is a minor sixth. So let's review really quick. So minor second, minor third, and again we're basing it off of our first note, our tonic note, or our bottom root first note of the scale. So minor second, minor third, skipping this guy, minor sixth, right? So we're going from here, lowering it. Okay. There's a seventh, so we have major seventh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we lower it, and it's a minor seventh. Minor seventh, okay? Major seventh, minor seventh. And then we have perfect 8, perfect octave, and if we lower it, we just get a major seventh. So we're not going to worry about that. So we again we review. So we have major second, minor second, major third, minor third. Sounds like a song already. Perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, minor sixth, major seventh, minor seventh, and then perfect 8. Okay? I hope you got all that. So that's those are intervals, and that is the beginning of creating harmony when we're writing music. Now, the mystery interval is this note right here in between the perfect fourth and the perfect fifth. This is what we call a tritone. Okay? I'm going to say some special words. Okay? So if you're already lost, just close your ears, turn the video off, and just watch the beginning part again, and that'll make you happy. Okay? So we have the perfect fourth. When we play this going from a perfect fourth to this note, this is called an augmented, oh man, you already hate me, augmented fourth. Right? It sounds as scary as it is, right? Or it's as scary as it sounds. Okay? We have our perfect fifth. If we lower it, it's called a diminished fifth. So this has two different names. Two different functions. If you're a huge music theory nerd like me, it's called an augmented fourth, diminished fifth. In the normal terms, we just call it a tritone because we don't want to deal with all of that jargon. There's a whole lot of philosophies that surround music. Just know that this is called a tritone. Tritone. So major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major sixth, major seventh, perfect eighth, minor second, minor third, perfect fourth to tritone. So this is a tritone. So minor second, minor third, tritone, minor sixth, minor seventh, and then again back to perfect eighth. Okay, I hope that was useful for you. I hope that was good for you to learn. So and informative for you. But when you're learning these, just try to just play around with them. And again, you can play around with them however you want with writing music. But play around with them and try to understand the sound. And so when you can practice hearing the sound, you can have a better chance of building your ears for perfect pitch. So if, let's say you play this and play this, just try to understand what it sounds like. And a good way to do this is by learning, it's like the song Chopsticks. Oops, that's a cool version. Right, and there we go. Right, so it's Chopsticks. I got a degree in piano and I can't even play Chopsticks. So Chopsticks, right, that's what Chopsticks is, okay? And then, so if you can remember this sound, you're like, okay, this is Chopsticks, I know that's a major second. So if you hear that played in a symphony and you hear Chopsticks being played, you just know that that's a major second. If you hear this together, it sounds happy, so it's very likely a major third. And if you can sing When the Saints Go Marching In, you can tell that is a major third. And so there's a lot of all these little tricks. I'll give you one more for a perfect fourth. To identify a perfect fourth, it's the Wedding March. Right? Here comes the bride. Right? And so you can come up with other ones if you want. There's a whole bunch of them. I'm not going to list them all right now. But you can come up with a whole bunch. So just play around with them. See what songs you can make out of them. And then that'll help you identify intervals even more. And it'll help develop your pitch. And also it'll help you write music. So our next video, we're going to talk about chords and how to play chords and what intervals make up a chord. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We probably won't get too deep into the intervals because I don't want you to get too lost with that. This is just an introduction to intervals.